Chapter 12:22, Research Facility. When he held the Staff of the Stars, Klein pulled out a gold coin out of thin air with his other hand and flicked it. As the gold coin tumbled, a revelation from his divination appeared in his mind. It was an extremely deep ravine. At the bottom of it was a thick and vast building that was covered in layers of grayish-white. Every detail was restored to the Chernobyl that Klein had seen at the beginning. However, it didn't originate from the spirit world, but from his own subconscious. Using the technique of dream divination, he reproduced the images he had seen in his mind. And the moment this scene was completed, the gems embedded in the Staff of the Stars emitted a faint glow. It instantly vanished along with Klein's historical void projection and appeared above the grayish-white building. In just a second, Klein returned from the easternmost front of the forsaken land of the gods to Chernobyl. This was one of the main powers of the Staff of the Stars. If the corresponding scene that surfaced in the mind of the wielder still existed in the real world, then the Staff of the Stars could allow them to cross all obstacles and distances, directly descending to their desired destination. Of course, the prerequisite was that the outlined scene had to be absolutely correct and not visually be any different from the original. The reason why he chose the deep ravine where Chernobyl was located, and not the grayish-yellow fog, was because he knew that the giant king's youngest son, the god of glory, Bladel, had perished after being freed from the curse. The area would definitely experience major changes, and the only thing that wasn't affected was the mysterious Chernobyl, which was valued by the ancient sun god and Ammon. This also didn't mean that the deep ravine and grayish-white building wouldn't have any visible changes. In fact, Klein had already prepared himself for the failure of his teleportation attempt. After all, the person performing it was fake, and the item in his hand was also fake. It wouldn't be a pity if he lost it. In midair, Klein, with the Staff of the Stars in his hand, didn't even have time to examine his surroundings when his entire body suddenly sank and plummeted downwards. He didn't wear creeping hunger, nor did he transform into an avian creature. He was currently unable to fly. Therefore, even though the demigods of the seer pathway were bizarre and terrifying, they actually had a human side to them. As his thoughts raced, a beyonder power appeared in his mind. Following that, the Staff of the Stars lit up with different colors, causing the surroundings to be filled with violent winds. The wind swirled around him, causing his black trench coat to flap and his body to slowly descend. During this process, Klein's right hand trembled, allowing the Staff of the Stars' historical projection to return to its normal location, doing so to prevent accidents from happening to him because of him imagining certain scenes. Right on the heels of that, his left hand pressed down on the half-top hat on his head. Just as the lightning in the sky was about to pass, he pulled out a lantern from the void. Under the dim yellow light of the lantern, Klein stepped firmly onto the ground beneath the deep ravine with his buckle-less leather shoes. The endless darkness around him seemed to contain monsters. He was standing in front of the grayish-white Chernobyl, which was formed in layers. Under the synchronized effects of the lightning and the lantern in his hand, Klein quickly discovered a situation. There was no door to this thick and vast grayish-white building. Every place is sealed. I remember that the ancient sun god had opened an illusory crack on the grayish-white wall before coming out. As if in thought, Klein found the spot in his memories and began chanting the honorific name of the fool. At the easternmost front of the forsaken land of the gods, by the solidified fog near Moon City, Klein, who was hiding in the historical void, immediately entered Sephra Castle. With the help of the prayer light, he used his true vision to scan the situation at Chernobyl. In the deep ravine and desolate plains with remnant grayish-yellow fog, there wasn't a single Ammon present. As for Chernobyl itself, even with the true vision provided by Sephra Castle, it wasn't enough for him to clearly see what was going on inside. Underneath the layers and layers of grayish-white, there appeared to be absolute nothingness, a space without any color. Indeed, it's not simple. As expected of the place where the ancient sun god, the City of Silver's creator, walked out of. After sighing inwardly, he quickly left Sephra Castle and returned to the historical fragment from before the first epic. Klein, who was standing outside of Chernobyl, regained consciousness. He reached out his hand and took out Leymano's travels. He quickly flipped to one of the pages and prepared to use the door-opening power of an apprentice. Such an action was actually a little rash for him, but considering that this was just a projection in the historical void, he felt that there weren't any problems with that. The Beyonders of the Seer pathway are indeed both cautious and reckless at the same time. They're careful when making preparations, but reckless after making preparations. They show traits of caution and recklessness at the same time. As he lampooned himself, Klein silently passed through the obstacle and entered Chernobyl's interior. After door opening repeatedly, he finally left the grayish-white buildings. He saw an ajar heavy metal door in front of him. The metal door wasn't very tall, only about 2.5 meters tall. It was obviously prepared for humans. In front of it, there were 2 pitch-black marks and 2 machine guns that were more sci-fi than any weapon belonging to this era. These 2 machine guns looked a little similar to the ones he had seen when he was flipping through some magazines in his previous life. However, he wasn't a fan of such things, so he couldn't be sure. Klein didn't pick them up or attempt to study them. His spiritual intuition told him that the 2 firearm-like weapons had completely corroded. Any contact with them would instantly cause them to disintegrate. After taking a few looks, he dispelled Leymano's travels. With the lantern in hand, he passed through 2 pitch-black marks and arrived behind the metal door. There was a wide aisle here, and on both sides were rooms of different sizes. The tables and chairs inside were toppled, some were fine and others were broken in half. The walls were covered with black streaks. It looks like a research facility. Klein set off from the remnants and overall layout, coming to a preliminary conclusion. There was no need for him to deliberately search for anything. He quickly found a room with a destroyed machine. There were a few pieces of paper on the table that had a yellow tint to it. It seemed like someone had casually placed it there after collecting it. The ancient sun god or Ammon. After hesitating for 2 seconds, he finally stepped into the room. The dim yellow light dispersed the darkness inside as he picked up the few pieces of paper and quickly scanned them. 10 seconds later, Klein put down the piece of paper and the corner of his mouth twitched. He didn't recognize any of the words on those pages. In my previous life, I only barely passed English, let alone other languages. Klein suddenly felt the feelings of the other Beyonders in this world when they read Roselle's diary. He slowly exhaled as he extended his hand into the void and took out an item. This was a translating device that Joe Mingrui had bought before going on a trip overseas which he had saved up for. When the luck enhancement ritual was held, it was inside a computer bag by his side. To him, the greatest advantage of this translating device was that it could do offline translations, as long as it didn't exceed the internally stored database. After fiddling with it, he finally understood what the few pages wrote. Research of the appearance of oil in a dried-up oil field. Why would they need to build a research facility in such an unimaginable place for such matters? God, what did they discover deep in the oil field? This is some amazing material. What exactly happened? The doctor turned into a puddle of black oil in front of me. More and more people have turned into oil. This research facility has been sealed from the outside. No one can leave. No one can leave. Mad, they've all gone mad. We're still normal, but our food is almost running out. I seem to be hearing things. There seems to be sounds coming from underground. It's summoning me. He is summoning me. These lines of simple words sent a chill down Klein's spine. He felt as though he was walking towards madness and death. At the same time, a thought naturally came to his mind. The corruption that stems from underground. The cause of all this was the unnecessary experiments involved after the discovery of some strange material in a dried-up oil field. Then, the world was destroyed. But if it was a disaster caused by such a coincidence, then there's no reason for me, Emperor Roselle, and the others to obtain items to help us transmigrate ahead of time. Perhaps there are chances amidst inevitability, and in chance, there is inevitability. The underground corruption has always been influencing the human world in an unobvious manner. It can intermittently bring about certain mysterious events. Only when the research facility probed deeper was he fully awakened. Klein subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. With the lantern in hand, he left the room and headed towards the depths of the research facility. He also paid close attention to anything that was worth paying attention to. After walking for nearly a minute, his vision suddenly darkened. More than half of the dim yellow light's radiance was consumed by the area ahead. When he took a closer look, he realized that there was a cliff 2 steps away from him. That portion of the research facility had collapsed into the ground. It was dark and empty, with no end to it. Faintly, he seemed to hear a silent cry. It sounded in his mind from deep underground. This feeling was something Klein had experienced before, from behind the bronze door in the Hall of Truth. He frowned slightly and took a few steps back, prepared to dispel the historical void projection at any moment. At this moment, a palm that was so dry that it only had skin and bones stuck out from the darkness, grabbing onto the edge of the cliff. Then a figure leaped out and landed in front of him. He was wearing a pointed hat and a classic black robe. He had a monocle on his right eye. It was none other than Angel of Time Ammon. However, this Ammon's condition was very abnormal. It was like a skeleton covered in a skin membrane. Klein subconsciously took a few steps back and saw the flesh and blood of the man before him rapidly fill up. He adjusted, his monocle said with a smile, "Ah, a visitor. I wasn't expecting that." "And you are,"